Are you counting on your 2026 COLA to keep up with rising prices? Here's the bad news. A report coming this November could quietly wipe most of it out. The government bases your raise on something called the CPI-W. That's the Workers' Inflation Index, not what retirees actually spend on. So while Medicare premiums, groceries, and housing keep climbing, your COLA could lag far behind. In this video, I'll break down what this mismatch really means for your spending power, how to sanity check the November numbers for yourself, and what you can do right now to protect your budget for 2026. If this helps you stay one step ahead, tap like and subscribe to Retirement Made Easy so more retirees can see it. And let's get into what to watch in November. So, what's this November report? And why does it matter? It's the Consumer Price Index from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This single report sets the tone for policy debates and fuels the inflation is easing story you hear on the news. But here's the problem. That headline number often hides the categories that drive your actual budget. Let's break it down. Social Security's COLA is tied to the CPI-W. That's the index for urban wage earners. But you're not a wage earner anymore. Your spending basket looks completely different. There's also a version called CPI-E, an experimental index that gives more weight to healthcare for older Americans. Yet policymakers still use CPI-W. What that means for you is simple. When healthcare and groceries run hot, your COLA can lag behind your real costs. Now, here's what to watch in the November release. First, medical care. That includes services and insurance costs that feed directly into Medicare pricing. Second, food at home. That's your grocery cart. Third, shelter. But don't be fooled. In the CPI, shelter mostly means rent and something called owner's equivalent rent. The estimated rent a homeowner would pay to live in their own house. That's not your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance increase, or your HOA fee. So even if shelter looks calm on paper, your housing costs can still rise. So how do you read the release without getting lost? Start with headline CPI year over year. Then check core CPI, which strips out food and energy. Now compare month-over-month changes to see momentum. If medical care looks flat year over year, but it's accelerating month over month, that's pressure building. The direction of the trend matters more than one big number. Now, here's where most people slip up. Revisions and base effects. The BLS can revise prior months, and even small changes can flip the story from cooling to sticky. Base effects matter too. If last year's reading was unusually high, this year's year-over-year number can look tame, even while prices are still climbing month by month. Don't let a soft headline fool you if the categories you actually pay for are still rising. And this is why it matters right now. If November's report prints cooling, policymakers may downplay inflation pressure. But your Medicare premiums, Part D copays, and grocery bill can stay stubbornly high. The CPI-W headline can drift lower, while your personal inflation doesn't. The result? A COLA that feels smaller the moment it hits your bank account. So here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Scan the medical care and food at home lines first, then glance at shelter, and see if owner's equivalent rent is doing the heavy lifting. If those first two categories are sticky, that's your red flag. Once you see that pattern, everything else clicks. Now, let's connect this index mismatch to where your dollars actually go next. Now let's put real dollars to this mismatch. Start with Medicare. Even a modest premium increase can swallow a big chunk of a small COLA. Here's what most people miss. Why premiums move. They rise when the cost of services and utilization rise. More procedures, more therapies, more specialist visits, or higher negotiated rates, and premiums follow right behind. So even if the November CPI headline says inflation is cooling, your Medicare costs may not cool at all. Your raise can show up on paper and disappear on your January statement. The practical impact shows up in two places: the base Part B premium and your cost sharing. If you're subject to income-related adjustments, the effect can hit even harder. A few dollars a month might sound small, but over a year, it compounds. And when deductibles or coinsurance rise too, you're paying more before coverage even kicks in. That's why a headline COLA can feel like sand slipping through your fingers. Now, let's move to Part D. Each year, plans tweak formularies, deductibles, and copays. A single tier change, say a preferred generic jumps up a tier, can erase months of COLA gains in one move. The tricky part? This doesn't show up neatly in CPI categories. Your plan design is the real lever. If your prescription list includes a brand name or specialty drug, that out-of-pocket spike can be sharp. And if your pharmacy loses preferred status, the same medication can cost more tomorrow than it did yesterday. Here's the bigger picture. CPI-W gives more weight to commuting, work-related expenses, and categories tied to wage earners. CPI-E, the Experimental Elderly Index, gives heavier weight to healthcare and medical costs. Yet policymakers still base COLA on CPI-W. What that means for you: when healthcare inflates faster than the general basket, your raise lags behind the bills that matter most. That's not a conspiracy. It's a measurement choice with real consequences. Now let's talk groceries. Food at home. These prices don't behave like electronics. There's no clearance sale for eggs, milk, or produce. When staples move up, they tend to stick. You can trade down to store brands, change sizes, chase promotions, but the basics rarely fall the way gadgets do. So if CPI-W says inflation is easing while food at home prices stay elevated, your cart disagrees with the headline. Here's the shortcut to sanity-check the November story. Compare your own year-over-year change in 3 simple lines: your Medicare premiums and cost sharing, your Part D out-of-pocket costs for current meds, your monthly grocery spend. Put last November and this November side by side. Then place the CPI headline next to it. The gap you see, that's your personal inflation. If your 3 lines are rising faster than the headline, your COLA is already underwater. And here's where retirees often slip up. Don't assume inflation is down means your costs are down. Medical and grocery categories can stay sticky long after others relax. Don't ignore plan changes. Formularies and pharmacy networks shift quietly in the background. And don't wait until January to react. By then, you've locked in decisions and lost months of potential savings. The reason this approach works is simple. Most retiree budgets are dominated by just a handful of categories. If you manage these 3, Medicare, Part D, and groceries, you control the slope of your spending. That's how you protect your purchasing power even when the headline, COLA, looks fine on TV. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Measure your life, not the index. Once you see the gap, the rest is execution. You can't change the formula they use, but you can change plans, pharmacies, and buying habits. And that's where we're headed next. Let's turn this announcement into action. A checklist you can actually execute before year end. Start with Medicare. Review your 2025 choices now, not later. If your premiums or copays jumped, don't wait. Evaluate alternatives today. Look at total cost, not just the monthly premium. Compare deductibles, coinsurance, and your doctor network. If you find a plan that keeps your doctors and lowers your out-of-pocket costs on the services you actually use, it's worth the switch. Next, your Part D audit. List every medication you take, name, dosage, and frequency. Then run a plan comparison using a neutral tool like Medicare.gov's Plan Finder. Pay attention to tier placements, step therapy rules, and prior authorization. And check your preferred pharmacies. Sometimes, simply moving to a plan's preferred network pharmacy can drop your copay significantly without changing a single prescription. If one of your meds moved up a tier, price it at 3 different pharmacies. Then look for a plan where it stays preferred. Now, let's talk groceries. Build a simple, effective plan. Start with a 6-item staples list, the things you buy every single week. Track those prices weekly for a month. That becomes your personal price map. Swap brands or sizes where it makes sense. Use loyalty programs or digital discounts, but only for items you actually buy. The goal isn't chasing coupons, it's shaving down recurring costs. Set one simple rule. If a staple spikes, buy the backup brand for 2 weeks, then reassess. Next, build a healthcare budget buffer. Think of it as a small monthly cushion to absorb premium or deductible spikes early in the year. Even $25 to $50 a month adds up. It's like keeping extra washer fluid in your car. You won't notice it until you need it, and then you'll be glad it's there. That cushion keeps you from dipping into savings at the worst possible time. Now for income planning, if your COLA disappoints, timing becomes your best friend. Coordinate withdrawals with your tax advisor. If your taxable income is creeping toward a higher bracket, consider adjusting your IRA withdrawal schedule or doing small, partial Roth conversions to manage bracket creep. The goal isn't clever tricks, it's smart sequencing. Keep more of what you've already earned. Next, start tracking your personal CPI. You don't need fancy software. A simple spreadsheet works fine. Make 3 columns: Medicare, Part D, and Groceries. Enter last month's spending, this month's spending, and the year-over-year change. Update it monthly. This beats any headline because it reflects your life, not a government average. If your personal CPI is rising faster than the November report, that's your cue to tighten those categories and revisit plan choices sooner. Now, a few quick wins to lock in before year-end. Set calendar reminders for plan review dates so you never miss an enrollment window. Call your pharmacy and confirm which plans they'll treat as preferred next year. Ask your doctor's office if any upcoming procedures or therapies could be scheduled in a way that optimizes your deductible. And if you use automatic refills, confirm the quantity and timing so you don't refill too early at the higher New Year deductible. Here's the game changer nobody talks about: cadence. Make these checks routine. Quarterly for groceries, annually for Medicare and Part D, with a quick mid-year glance, monthly for your personal CPI. Because when you stack small, consistent actions, the COLA becomes a bonus, not a lifeline. You can't change the index they use, but you can change the levers you pull. That's real control, and that's how you keep your budget steady, even when the November headlines look cheerful and your cart says otherwise. Policymakers still base your COLA on the CPI-W, not the CPI-E that actually reflects retiree costs. So when November's headlines cheer, inflation is easing, remember what that really means. It may be easing for workers, not for you. The 2026 COLA might be shrinking, but your options aren't. You can review your 2025 Medicare and Part D choices this week, track your personal CPI each month, and start pulling the levers you actually control. Because when you manage what's in front of you, the next headline doesn't decide your future. If this video helped you cut through the noise, hit like, subscribe for step-by-step retirement guides, and share it with someone who needs a clearer plan before the new year. I'm here to help you make retirement work for you, not the index.